Mhm. Well, hello and welcome. You are now listening and watching the Spark Your Creative podcast, and I am your host, Sharon Burton of Spark Your Creative Coaching, where I work with creatives and artists to bring out their best work and to unblock themselves so they can share their creative um, gifts with the world. And I am so happy to bring you another edition of the podcast. And um, all of the podcasts I do are very special. And I am curated by yours truly, based on a variety of different things. One of the biggest things for me is to look at alternative ways and thoughts about and ideas about unblocking. And since we are living in a world right now that is quite challenging on a lot of different fronts, I think that there's certain things that a lot of coaches don't talk about, and those are things such as rituals. What kinds of rituals can people do to help open themselves to their creative practice? And I have a perfect person to talk about that today. Kendra McMurray is my guest, and I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today because she is someone I've been watching on social media for a while. She's associated with um, some folks that I really admire. And we're finding that we have a lot in common, and I hope to continue the connection. Um, but let me share a little bit about her. She is a certified angel guide, certified oracle guide, which is very interesting, Seraphim Blueprint Energy Healer, a psychic medium, and dream interpreter. She is the owner of Soul Bridge Messages and Guidance, where she offers one-on-one guidance sessions, intuitive development coaching, dream analysis, and mediumship services. I should have been in touch with you. I had some interesting dreams a couple of weeks ago. I didn't realize that you were just dreaming now. Okay. She has served as an ambassador and mentor in Oracle School, an online school founded by world-renowned intuitive counselor, psychic medium, and author Colette Baron Reed. In her ambassador role, she speaks to prospective students about the value of using oracle cards as a tool for self-discovery and personal mastery. She's currently studying Irish mythology, interesting, magic, and spirituality with author, teacher, guide Laura O'Brien at the Irish Pagan School and writing her very first book. Welcome to Spark Your Creative Podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. This is fun.
I love doing these. I really do. If there was nothing else I did, is just doing this kind of stuff, podcasts and videos, because I just think it's just such a interesting way. And we were talking earlier, I'm an introvert too, but this is the only thing that sort of brings me out for some
I
strange.
know, right?
Yeah, maybe because
Love
it's one
that.
to one, or I don't know what it is. But anyway, so we're talking about rituals, and one thing that we both have in common, among a lot of different things, is that we're both working on book projects. And Kendra, there was a post Kendra posted on Instagram about preparing herself for, her creative process with her book. And so I thought it was interesting to have her on here to talk about some of the things that she does, like rituals, things that she may do to prepare herself for writing. And I talk about this because sometimes um, we may need to set the stage for our creativity. And I think this is just something that a lot of people may not think about when they are preparing, and particularly even myself. I've been an artist for a number of years, and writing is fairly new to me. And sometimes it's just that intimidation factor of doing something new, and um, you know, uh, sometimes you have to find different ways to make it happen. So Kendra, I'm going to start off with my first question, which is, how and why did you start incorporating rituals as part of your life? And what led you to start doing this?
Well, kind of let's just start with the basic of, what is a ritual, right? Uh, I went to a blog just to pull, just a concrete definition, and it was a visual set of actions that are imbued with deep and personally significant meaning, right? So we have rituals that we do for our birthdays, rituals we do even if you're just reading to relax or meditating to relax. That can be a very sacred ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I used to have rituals even as a child, not realizing it. I look back on it now and I'm like, wow, that was a ritual. I was a writer at the tender age of 8. And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do at 8 years old. I had
Wow.
submitted for my first contest and I won for best book. And I was like, this is what I
What?
want to do.
Oh,
Yes.
oh,
I was
go
like, this is what I want
you.
to do.
Go
That's the one.
8-year-old Kendra. What? Go ahead.
This
Go
is,
ahead,
I knew.
8-year-old Kendra.
That's right. And so from that point, I was a voracious reader. And so, like you now, I was very much into poetry and creative writing. And so, to kind of get that imagination flowing, I would, and it's funny now because I still kind of do it. I would get into my bed and put my covers over my head and make like a little tent, and I would just daydream about stuff for a good hour. And it was almost like a little play in my head. And then after that, I would start writing and it would just all flow. There
Mm-hmm.
are other times where I would take my 2-hour long bath, and my parents were always, Kendra, you cannot be in there in the bathtub for 2 hours. Like you're running the water every 5 minutes trying to make it hot. And I'm like, I'm reading. And I would have a stack of books and I would just read and I would get ideas. And I started, increasing my vocabulary, and I would use those words. When I would get out of the bathtub, I would get my journal and I would just start writing. And I'd be like, oh, I can inject that word. Like I just learned this new word. And so those rituals as a child transferred to me as an adult as well. I think right now, a lot of the rituals I use, even something as small as, a candle. I will light a candle and just kind of focus on it to zone out a little bit
Mm-hmm.
when I'm trying to get to a creative space. I will come in my office. I will take a deep breath, let it out, light my candle. I will spray some mist around here just to kind of cleanse the air. And what I do is I'll just call up a prayer. Spirit, I need you to guide me. I'm getting ready to write. Work through me. Whatever you want to say, let it be said on paper. And that's kind of how my rituals kind of start when I'm about to do something creative.
Okay. You kind of answered my second question, describing how, the creative activities that rituals play a part in. Um, do do you find that if you don't do, let's say, light the candle or spray the mist in the room, if you don't do any of those things, let's say you just sit down and just hit the computer, how is it the same for
What's
you?
the
Do you
difference?
find that there's a big difference, as
Actually,
far as how you, not only just your productivity, but just creative ideals or the flow that you would normally have if you had done the candle thing and the room aromatherapy
I do think it makes a difference. And I think, these things, and we've talked about magic. I do think, in a sense, yes, you could call it magic, but really it's just our intent, right? We are
thing?
setting aside space for ourselves.
Hmm.
And that can be anywhere during your day, whether it's 5 minutes. If I tell myself, I am preparing myself, clearing things out of my mind, and you're just sitting there and it's you just taking a deep breath. That's very different than coming into my office flustered, yelling at my kids, sitting down, trying to write, getting frustrated. I've prepared my space before I write.
Okay.
I also use crystals.
Okay.
And what I'll do, I have a huge crystal collection of about 300 to 400 crystals.
What?
And
300 to 400? Oh my God.
yes,
I envy
I
that.
love it. I love my crystals.
Yeah,
I love
I
my
do
pretty.
too, but woo, it's nowhere near that. But go ahead, girl. I'm
I
not
am
mad at you.
like you. I am a very, very visual person. And I'm also a Libra. And so I love pretty things. And so I love to be surrounded by beauty and cleanliness. And so when I'm in my space, and I always tell people this, you have got to physically clean your space to prepare before you do anything, because you are a reflection of what else is going on around you. And so when I put myself in that mind state, when I'm clear, when I've said, I'm going to let go of the day's concerns, the anxieties, the worries, and I'm just for the next, 30 minutes, I promise myself, I'm going to write, I don't know, 2,000 words. And so even if it's just that short amount of time committing to that, it works better when I've already set a ritual. And so now it's kind of expected. I know my mind is already like fixated. I know that if I don't do it, I will be in a completely different state and it doesn't come out right.
It's interesting because one of the things I talk to some of my clients about is that very thing. Because when you set up a ritual and you will first declutter your space and, create, a sense of preparation and seriousness, it sort of kind of brings a message to the brain that, we're getting ready to do some serious work. It's not just the regular. If you were just sitting in there paying bills, it's a whole different
It's a
thing.
different vibe. It's a different vibe.
You're
Yeah.
not lighting no candles or everything. Maybe you should,
Right.
but it's candles and so you're actually sending a signal to your mental and emotional self that we're getting ready to do some work, and we're setting the stage for what we're doing, which in some ways unblocks you. Because if you were to just sit there, as you said, and just start writing or whatever without that preparation, the body and the brain may not get the message that, oh, we need to open ourselves up
Absolutely.
for a creative process. And so that's why I think it's important. And rituals it really doesn't have to be dramatic, you know. And as you said, it might be pulling certain crystals. And if you're into crystals, like we are, um, there's crystals that have different properties that help you. And particularly if you're familiar with the sacral chakra and the chakra system, you can get the right crystals that may be associated with your sacral chakra, which is below the belly button and is the chakra or the energy center in your body that is where your creativity comes out. You may do that. You might just, it might be just as simple as playing music. I
Absolutely.
play a lot of music, and I, um, everything from classic rock to R&B to jazz, whatever I'm in the mood for, I'll play music, and usually I like to sing along. But because of the artwork that I do, it's not sort of like it's interrupting me. With
I saw your
writing,
post the other day where you
yeah,
and I was singing along to the song. I was like,
yeah. On my other Instagram account, which is my art account, um, I had posted one of my creative sessions where I was listening to a lot of Van Halen music because Eddie Van
yeah, it
Halen
passed.
passed, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's a part of my teenage and young adult life that once again has flown the coop. But yeah, I listen to a lot of music, and it helps me to move. My ritual is a lot to do with scents. Aromatherapy, in addition to the whole crystal thing, is interesting to me. Scents that are citrus in nature
Oh, nice.
bring out creativity. A matter of fact, I got this candle right here. I just got the candle the other day.
I
Um,
love some candles.
yeah, Archipelago makes this mango and tangerine flavor, and it's just a bomb. I smelled it for the first time in an office I went to, and I was like, "What is that?" And they had I think one or two candles all over, and it just smelled so good, but it was uplifting, and it just helps me focus. So I may do a candle, I might do some incense, and definitely the music is part of my ritual. So when we talk about rituals, and it's not about, I have to meditate and pray, though meditation is a great way of doing it if it's like a quick 10-15 minute meditation, particularly if you're really blocked. But it could be just anything from journaling a little bit before you get started. It could be, um, bringing in different things that light your fire or that inspire you. It could be different magazines, some pictures, something that you want to look at in between. But when you set up a ritual, it's really important to kind of alert yourself and your inner muse that yes, we're getting ready to play
We're
today.
getting ready to do this. It
Yes.
it signals everything. And I also want to inject that color therapy is really a phenomenal ritual too, because I will surround myself in certain colors.
Mm.
It's just like even with crystals, all of my crystals are by Energy Center. And so, of course, they're color coordinated. And so, those colors, when I want to evoke a certain emotion, or, when I need that passion, it'll be a lot of carnelians and jaspers, a lot of reds and earth tones. I'll do a lot of blues. I am big into blues and aquas when I'm really just trying to get a little bit more lofty or write creatively. And so you're right. I mean, all of those things, it does not have to be this huge ordeal. It doesn't have to be an ornate spread. It's very simple. And I find it interesting that when you were talking about, decluttering your space, when I dream, I always dream of like houses, and usually houses means your mind. And so I will know that I am stuck when I dream of a house that is extremely cluttered. Like I'm stepping over a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
or the house is on fire in the back, things like that. Yes, yes, yes. Like,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you, you can find out a lot. The house is
Yes.
synonymous with your mind.
Mhm.
So when you're dreaming of those things, you can actually kind of gauge your progress with dreams. If you're saying, okay, I'm going to start this ritual to see if I can get myself unblocked, and then do
Mhm.
that for a couple of weeks, whether it's journaling, whether it's, you said, listening to music. And after a couple of weeks, your dreams start to change, and you'll start to see those symbols and things crop up, and it's like, all right, now all of a sudden it's not overcast skies or it's blue skies, and you just start tracking that. So I wanted to put that out there too, because I'm big into dreams, but there is a connection there, and you can gauge your progress just by looking at other parts of your mystical life.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, I think I did want to get back to one point that we both kind of talked about, and that was the decluttering. And if you're into feng shui, uh,
Hmm.
when you declutter, that kind of moves. Was it chi? I never pronounced that right. It
I
moves
think.
that energy around. And so you want to have as much energy moving or open in your space to be able to create. And so I have this ritual of, like, my art table is always cluttered with paint and stuff. I'm working right now, so it's there. But when I first start the process, all of it goes. I put the paints and stuff back, and I know it's weird. And then I choose what I want, but I have
That
to put
makes sense
everything away
though.
yeah, and clear it before I actually take out the canvases and the art pieces and the, supplies. It's just weird, but that's the only way I can do it now. Now that I'm ongoing, it doesn't bother me as much because that energy of the paints and the canvases and everything near me is part of this one project. So when this project is over, everything has to clear. And then I'll start something new. But this
You're
series,
opening and closing that energy, which is
absolutely.
perfect. It's perfect.
Yes,
That's the signal. Yes.
absolute. All right. You know, I think the I think the biggest thing is sort of owning whatever your ritual is, making it as simple as it is for you. Some people do incense, some people do, like I said, prayers or whatever. So, you know, own it. It doesn't have to be what we do, but whatever resonates for you. But just know that it's a way to just ready yourself for this. Um, just out of curiosity, what do you do to unblock yourself if you find yourself blocked? You know, do you, outside of the ritual thing, what things do you do? And I try to remember to ask that question. Yes, and I'm not always good about that, but I was just curious with you. You're writing a book. What is your book about?
It is about my spiritual awakening and my
Okay.
journey after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and getting signs and symbols and vivid dreams, and kind of taking the reader through not only my story, but teaching them how to use their own intuition to guide themselves to their best selves. And so that's what my book is about. And right now I'm in a writing program. And so that's one of the things I'm doing to unblock myself. I have been in the middle of a block, I'd say, for a good 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And so I've had to kind of start over from square one, and I journal a lot. And I hate it. The funny thing is, I'm a writer, but I hate journaling. And I know I talk to a lot of people, and they're like, I hate it too. And I don't know what it is about the fact that probably because I'm forcing myself to do it. And so those journal prompts, even though I don't like it, when I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, that kind of opened me up, because the journal prompts, you start off with that. But once you start writing, it gets into a free writing exercise.
Mhm.
And that's where my flow comes.
Okay.
I am also a medium. So a lot of times I will get messages when I kind of zone out. So when I'm free writing, and that's just basically writing down whatever comes, I will get those messages and write them. And so it's almost like automatic writing at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So after that session, that kind of unblocks me for that moment, at least.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm a morning pages person. So which is journaling really. 3 pages through the Julia Cameron's Artist Way. And you know, the purpose is, from her perspective, is that you dump all your feelings, you know, everything that's on your mind, 3 pages, so you can clear yourself to create. Which, if it's done on a regular basis, it works very well.
It
I was
works.
doing so good until the pandemic.
That's what I was fine.
And
It's
I'm
been
like, I'm home all the time. This is ridiculous.
it's
So
been a mess.
I'm just getting kind of back into it. But I agree with you. There's something about it, because I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm saying the same thing over and over, which is also a clue to why I'm blocked.
Yes.
And I teach a workshop about this, about identifying those things and working through those things that you write about, because it's supposed to be stream of consciousness writing. So you're just sort of writing whatever comes to your head. So it could be stuff that you get, you know, intuitively. It could be stuff that's going on. You know, you just had an argument with somebody and you're like, I don't understand why so and so acting like this. Or a disappointment, or, you know, I hate COVID. I hate it. I hate it.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
but what I,
Had a lot of those entries.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, you know, I miss my people. Um, but the other thing I do, which is kind of part of my ritual in a sense, that I identify a affirmation for the week. And
Nice.
so I write that affirmation down 3 times before I really start writing. And it helps me kind of get in the flow of writing, you know, because like you might not be ready to write that first sentence that's on,
Exactly.
but the mantra or the affirmation kind of, you know, gives you sort of energy, and it helps remind me of what I'm supposed to be doing, what my purpose is, and what where I am. So I may start out still saying something that might be fairly negative, as far as what's going on, but it's something about putting those affirmations down that quickly moves me to a more positive, grateful, maybe some statements of gratitude that has happened during the week. So,
That's very interesting because it's similar with my oracle cards where I pick one per day.
and I
And
do that too. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
kind
I
of
do
look
a
at
daily
that.
oracle
Yep.
and a tarot card. And I have several oracles, and I have a couple now tarot cards. I can't believe that I started collecting those during this pandemic. Um, but yeah, yeah, 'cause I started learning.
We
Yeah,
start
pandemic buys. But yeah, I do that too. After I do my meditation in the morning and my morning pages, I also do a draw. And by the way, folks, that's also part of your ritual too. Um, a lot of us have daily rituals. I think they're keeping us afloat during these interesting times. If you hadn't already been doing it, you're doing it now, or something about it.
right.
And I've always done meditation for a number of years, but I've added like the oracle and the tarot as part of my guidance for the day. And sometimes that's the only formal ritual I'll do during that day, but it sort of sets the stage. And a lot of
Yeah.
times the draws, I don't know about you, Kendra, but the draws will kind of guide me where I might need to go creatively. Like that might be some clues if I'm blocked. And some people do that right before they start creating. They may do an oracle or a tarot pull. Ask the cards, what direction or what do I need to know about my creativity today, or what do I need to know about my creative block? And you may
Yeah.
get some great guidance and messages that way. Definitely, that's one of my favorite ways of doing that. This has been fun, Kendra.
Yeah.
Um, tell people how they can find out more about you, and when your book is coming out, and just tell us how we can find out about you and the book and the stuff that you do in your services.
Well, right now, like I said, I am in a program to do a proposal. And so it's definitely not set in stone. I don't know that I would go the self-publishing route just yet. But I do have an outline and, 45-page proposal. Basically, this is what I want to write about. And so I'm aiming for the next 2 years. We will see how that goes. But in the meantime, people can find me at Instagram at K McMurray Writes, and that's KMCMURRAY Writes, WRITES, or on my website, kmcmurraywrites.com. I am also on Facebook as author K McMurray. Type in my name, Kendra McMurray, K McMurray. And so I just use those platforms to share a little bit of my story. You might get one day I could be talking about my rituals. The next day I could be talking about my blocks. The next day I could be telling you how I transitioned to spirit from one side to the next. And so it really just depends.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of use it as my own digital journal, these platforms. So you never know what you're going to get, but I invite my audience to kind of be in on my journey with me. A lot of them will become part of my story when I ask questions like, if I put my tarot cards out or my oracle cards, this is what I got for the day. Use your intuition and you tell me what you get. And sometimes I'll get 5 to 10 responses, and it'll have me looking at my own spread with fresh eyes. And so having those people, use their own intuition and contribute to my story just kind of makes it even better at this point. So that's where you can find me. I'm always around. I do have a full-time job right now, but at some point I am hoping that I can move full-time into writing and coaching, intuitive development, and dream analysis.
Awesome. Awesome sauce. All right. Well, thank you, Kendra, for joining us for this edition of the Spark Your Creative podcast. I think we all learned quite a bit,
Thank you.
and appreciate you sharing your journey and your ideals for opening up to just basic rituals to get you moving with your creative projects. And for those of you that are listening, once again, if you're interested and need some help with your creative practice, need some help with unblocking, or just wanting to incorporate more creativity into your life, please visit my website at www.sparkyourcreative.com and feel free to browse around and contact me there. You can find me on Instagram as well at Spark Your Creative, and also Twitter at Spark_Creative, and on Facebook at Spark Your Creative. And you will get a lot of different tips and information from me on how to keep your creative practice alive and to incorporate creativity into your life. Thank you again, Kendra, and
Thank
thank
you.
you all again for listening. Take care and God bless.